Hi everyone, welcome to the Property Finance Podcast, and today we're carrying on our series of frequently asked questions, and one that comes up all the time is choosing the right product when you're going to auction. So I'm joined by Adam Powell again today, who's going to be helping us to delve into auctions and what product to use. So yeah, talk us through when you're buying at auction, what should you be looking for?
Well, we do get a lot of clients that contact us after they've been to auction. That's
a key point. Contact us after they've been to auction.
Gone, yes, because some of them do it before, and of course we're making figures up because we don't know what the figures. We don't know what the.
But we do want that contact before the auction, don't we?
We do to a certain extent, but they've also got to bear in mind that any figures we produce are based on what the maximum they're prepared to actually go to, and sometimes they'll go more than that, and sometimes they'll go less. But typically we can provide them with some basic figures.
Yeah.
But because there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of lenders out there, bridging lenders, the key thing is knowing which ones are geared up for auction purchases, because not all of them are.
And when you say geared up, you're referring to speed, essentially, aren't you?
Yeah. So typically, once you've been to auction, you've got 28 days. If you're successful, you've got 28 days to complete. Otherwise, you lose your deposit.
Yeah.
So speed is key. Now, there are some. I've had some clients in the past that have gone on the internet and they've gone, well, I want. I've seen that I can get this really cheap rate on bridging from this bridging lender. And I said, yes, you do qualify for that rate, but you're not going to complete in time.
Yeah.
Because
or they qualify for that rate, but what they don't realise is that it's 20% loan to value or 30% loan to value.
There is that, but I think also that the expectation is that they'll be able to deliver in time, and we know from experience that
they're not geared up to. Yeah.
You tend to find that those that are offering the cheapest rates will underwrite it more like a mortgage.
Yeah.
So you're talking not 28.
It'll take 28 days just to underwrite it, probably.
Yeah, it takes longer than 28 days. So it's then for us, it's approaching the right lenders that are geared up for auction purchases. So they'll do things a lot quicker because they can apply things like either doing like desktop valuations or AVMs, which speeds up the process because they're not relying on a full-blown valuation report, and also they're cheaper. But also they can do title insurance, which then reduces the number of sort of legal requisitions
and searches and things you need. Yeah,
exactly. So they can complete within the time frame, and they've got a track record, and we know that they've got a track record of completing within the right time frame. So for us, when a client comes to us and talks about, I've just picked up this property at auction, it's about relying on our experience of knowing where to go, which lender to go to, and not the ones that they've actually found on the internet, because more often than not, it's with a lender that, yes, they do bridging, but they're not that particularly geared up for speed. And that sounds a weird thing to say, because all bridging lenders are supposed to be about speed. But when you've got 28 days to complete, you want to go with a lender. It soon
disappears,
Absolutely.
And it's not 28 working days either, is it? A lot of them are just 28 days, which means instantly you've got to remove 8 days for the weekends and etc. But just coming back to sort of when the client comes and speaks to us, because I think this is important, because obviously you mentioned about clients coming to us after the auction, but I think it is beneficial to speak about why it's good if they do come to us before the auction, because there are certain things that we can do to speed the process along, aren't there? And essentially things that we can look at before they go to the auction, which will help sort of maximise that 28 days.
Yeah, I mean, there's some. Well, they wanted. We want to make sure that there's going to be a lender out there that's going to like that particular type of property, and usually we can get a link to that particular lot on the auction website, which we can then fire out to the lenders. Yeah, and sometimes we may even get a legal pack. That's useful. Yeah, but typically it's usually a link, and the lender can go through it and say, yes, we can lend X amount on this, or they might find something that has been overlooked.
Well, that's the thing. They're essentially doing that extra layer of due diligence, aren't they?
Yeah.
We're actually putting it in front of another set of eyes who might come back and say, well, have you thought about this? Or have you seen this? Have you had your solicitor look at this, for example?
Yeah, and they will do a certain amount of work, and same as us, we'll do a certain amount of work, because ultimately we don't know whether they're going to be successful at auction, especially if it's well attended.
Yeah.
But I think
it's very rare we get an auction deal in pre-auction that isn't going to be popular. Because I think that's the thing is, if someone's looking at it before the auction, chances are there are another 10 or 15 people looking at it, which for us, it's a very low success rate, I think, realistically. Obviously, if they've won it at auction on the day, then they come to us, and obviously the success rate for us is much higher. But
yeah, and that leads on to the next bit, and that is that as soon as they're successful at the auction, don't wait 2 weeks and then come to us.
You've had one literally at the point of recording this yesterday where they've waited 3 days, I think it was. Well, 3 days, especially weekdays, you've then got to wipe out the weekend as well.
We've had some literally since their 3rd week.
Yeah.
And we've had to really pull out the stops. That's when you really have to make sure that everybody's doing their bit, including the client solicitor. So it's, the more time the client gives us, as soon as they step out of that auction house, give us a call.
Should be on there dealing with it, And coming to us before the auction as well, although, like we've said, to a degree, it's beneficial, but also not. But I think on the beneficial side, getting some of those early application forms done, getting some of the early documents that we need done allows that process to happen a bit quicker, doesn't it? Even if it's a case of a client coming to us and saying, well, I'm looking at auctions. I haven't found anything yet, but I'm looking at auctions. That's the sort of route to market that I'm taking. Even then being able to send us a handful of documents and bits and pieces before they start doing that and allowing us to hold those on record speeds things up.
It also depends on the type of property they're looking at. So, they could be going to auction looking at a residential property, which we know we can go to the higher loan to values, or they could be looking at a commercial property that's a bit tired.
Where we know we're restricted,
Where we're going to be restricted.
We can advise them on that,
Or they're going to look for a piece of land.
Which we know we're really restricted
on. We're really restricted on those ones. So it's knowing, helping them to sort of give them an idea about where the lender's going to be on sort of leverage.
And where their deposits needs to be.
Exactly, and how much money they're going to have to put in, realistically.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than winning at an auction and then finding out you can only borrow 60% loan to value, for example, and all of a sudden finding out, well, actually, not only have I put the 10% deposit in, I thought I only needed to raise another 15%, but actually I've got to go and raise another 30%. It's stressful, to say the least. And I think that's what this episode is all about, is about trying to alleviate some of that stress that people find at auctions, because they can be one of the most dangerous things to get into.
Well, yeah, especially if they then say to us things like, well, I also want to do a refurb, or I want to gain planning. Well, okay, that's fine, but that's going to take longer to sort out. So you'll have to do a bridge to get the purchase finalised and sorted. And then we'll look at, once you've got planning, we can then look at doing something afterwards. So you can't do it in one hit. That's it'll take too long.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Love that one. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Catch you on the next one.